build on that.
I don't know. I think it's like soon now.
Child in there.
He's gonna be so upset.
Good morning, Santa Barbara High School. This is Amber Thorockin, your ASB Vice President. Could everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Vice President. Amber.
Ready, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There is a college fair today in Dodson's Meadow at lunch outside of the College and Career Center. Come speak with representatives from out-of-state colleges and universities. The Madrigals are looking for more tenors and basses to join for the school year. Auditions will be held Tuesday and Wednesday, September 5th and 6th after school by appointment. Please contact Ms. LaFace or a current choir member if you are interested. On Friday, the choir department will be having a cookie social during lunch in the choir room, which is right next to the cafeteria. Come by, check it out, and get some free cookies. There is a club meeting next Wednesday at lunch in the ASB room. Thanks. Have a nice day.
I'll pretty much eat anything, but it's neither. No, it's blueberries, raspberries, and cottage cheese. And usually I put other fruit in there. It's just this morning we didn't have any other fruit. Before we do any of that, I want to make sure that we finished our discussion of my syllabus a couple of days ago. It's a block day. So we could do the tragedy of the commons for an entire hour and a half, and we're going to go almost an entire hour and a half as it is. But let's just dedicate a couple of minutes to wrapping up that syllabus. Please take it out. Are you Guo, Gao, last name? Cool. Will you be around tomorrow at seminar? Yes? Can we meet tomorrow at seminar here? Great. In the meantime, you need one each of those papers in the back on the rack. Tomorrow seminar? All right. I'm sure you can imagine the periods all blend together for me. I don't know where we left off, and we talked about the whole front, I assume? Say something. Yeah. You saw that you get a quarter credit for late work. We talked about makeups and my cheating thing with the exams. Yeah. The anonymous 100% if you reported a snitch, did you snitch on it? Yeah. I wanted you to keep all your papers all year, yeah? Then just one last thing. Did I tell you that my exams are as much like the AP test as I can make them? Mm-hmm. Which means that they are deviously challenging every now and then? Mm-hmm. Did I counsel you that all students should bank up extra credit throughout the year? There's like a smattering of points all year long, and you've got to gather them like credit, hoard them like a squirrel in the fall. Because, you know, winter is coming, academically speaking, and you want to have a bank up of points. Do you have my Game of Thrones reference? Who's a Game of Thrones fan? Is Bran the Night King?
King of the North.
I know, but
Oh, you mean
Bran? Have you noticed the facial similarity?
He's a cold person, though.
Blew my mind today. Something about if you stay too long, you get stuck or something like that. Remember, like in season 5, I think. Should just Google image search Bran Night King, and there's like side-by-side photos, and like it'll, whoa, changes everything, Claire.
I've heard about it.
You have?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I haven't really like got into it.
I think no. It can't. But yeah. All right. So I guess maybe we're done talking about the Silolobus. Make sure that you read this section that discusses the different extra credit things. The first two types of extra credit, it's up to me. You turn it in and I'll be like, nah, not good enough. Or like, wow, that really does add to the class. Keep in mind, I need your help to make my class better. Our reading packet was assembled by students of the past. You find me stuff that's interesting, I pay you an extra credit if I think it's interesting. A lot of kids go, hey look, here's a picture of Chewbacca, and I'm like, not interested. You do get points for all the after-school environmental films, and you do get points for all of the weekend extra credit activities. Make sure you read the extra credit policies. You should know about them. Any questions on the syllabus? Because otherwise I'm going to consider this done now. All right, the tragedy thing. Leave your tragedy stuff out, but pack your bags. I'm going to move you in a while. Get ready to travel, but leave your tragedy stuff out. I warned you about this. It's a difficult article. Every year the same thing happens. I do this lecture, and I ask all the kids, what do you think it is? And some kid's like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no! And some other kid goes, I got it. And I go, no! And some other kid tries, I'm like, stupid! And the kids keep trying. And then there'll be like some kid that's like, no. It's like, okay, you got it, but I don't really care about you. I gotta focus on everybody else. So I want to baby step it, because this is on every AP test. It will enlighten your future. It will encourage you to participate in democracy. It will clarify political debates. How many of you, please look up, read the article, fully nailed it, I got this bro, ready to teach this class, peace, I'm out, drop the mic. How many of you recognized a few words? How many of you have realized that school's not for you and you don't actually read and lit your head on fire? I need to know everyone's position in this spectrum. Thank you. If you're shy, you can kind of keep it TL. Okay. What if I told you that the tragedy of the commons has nothing to do with population? Uh-huh. Anybody want to modify their previous? That's tight. It's important to point out that population makes these matters more complicated. And later on, if we get really good at this, you can imagine a way in which population is a type of tragedy, but it doesn't explain what the tragedy is. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to discuss this with the person right next to you. So, sorry, new kids. And then I'm going to reorganize you. And then we will try to define it, and then I will babble about it, and then how to theoretically solve it, and then why all the solutions are imperfect, and then we will go home feeling much smarter. 2 minutes across the aisles, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. 2 minutes, go.
So basically, I think it's just about like what I really like. The thing that really stuck with me from the article is I'm not sure where exactly it was, but it talked about right here. So the positive component is a function of the increment of one animal. Since the herdman receives all the proceeds from the sale of the additional animal, the positive utility is 1. So by adding another animal to he's using like a meadow as like the commons. So if you add another animal to it, you get all of the benefit of that, so it's +1. But also when you add it, there's a negative component, but it's only a fraction of 1 for you because it's being shared. Because as you add the sheep or whatever, it's degrading. It's like overgrazing the pasture.
Yeah,
but everybody has to like.
This dude got a sheep, add 1. That dude has 1, and all the grass is like, we get the benefit of the sheep when they
and then, right, so it's like a fraction of 1 for these, and then if they reproduce, it produces more
basically
too.
it's a backwards each time, but you still get the benefit of what the sheep's getting.
Right. So basically, it's like people will always choose to add another one because it's in their like favor for the short term, and in long right. If you can see the long term, you might. It would be smart to limit how many you add, but like rationally, most people would do it. Let's see. I underlined some other stuff.
All right, now. How many of you got dumber just now or got closer to knowing something just now? Or got nowhere because the person next to you was gross and you'd rather not look at them or talk to them? Oh yeah, right, that's it. Okay. Everybody's like, oh no, that. You were given one of 4 assignments. Group number 1s were summarizers. Group number 2 were 4 sentences. Group number 3 were connectors. Group number 4 were responders. Look at me. 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. There's 9 desks in each, so try to take a quadrant of the room. Go! You kids, just take the empty desks left over afterwards.
Then I'm gonna stay.
Take your stuff with you.
No. Either way. You want to go after you want to go?
I don't. I'm just trying to get out of here.
Okay.
Wait, I don't think we can both.
Yeah.
But go for it. Go to the assembly.
I need to get from
Oh, yeah.
Sit here. What's that?
Coming. Second request. First, you might want to see if anybody's got a really good explanation of the tragedy comes itself, just so we can get moving. If anybody says anything about population, just stop them talking and move on. No talking population. There is a way to integrate that topic later, maybe, but I don't need to. So, see if you can agree on what the tragedy of the commons first of all is, and then find the best summary of the tragedy of the commons. See if we can explain it in the least number of words. Find the 4 quotes that best illustrate what the tragedy of the commons is. Maybe the number 1 quote that best illustrates it. Rank them. Once you've agreed on what you're talking about is the tragedy of the commons, then you can try to find some connections in the real world, like some actual examples. What is the tragedy part? What is the commons part? And see if there's anything that you can say about this article that is in any way interesting to add. Some response to the author. Miss Lippy, the part I don't get is, I just wish that the author had, I don't understand how this makes sense in this part. You're all supposed to be 1s, you're all supposed to be 2s, you're all supposed to be 3s, you're all supposed to be 4s, is that right? Are you a mistake in the quadrant of the center? Ah! Georgia is the mistake. I was trying to figure out why she turned her back on her people. Why had people taken us, Georgia? Everybody knows what they're doing? You can move your desks around if it's easier to face each other and get incorporated into the right quadrant. Go!
I said that a modern day example related to tragedy of the commons is the formation of ocean gyres, I think they're called. It's like
Will you please walk through the greenhouse and see if any rat traps have snapped?
Snap, or if there's rat in the. Well, it doesn't matter either.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Both.
Snap rat.
Just tell me if there is.
Just say if there is snap rat in there.
I've trained other students to manage it, but I just
nice.
Play. Alright. Getting somewhere. It's gonna work.
Where like infringing on the commons is really infringement on people's private property. If you talk about private property to say like a Native American, hey, it's our freedom to do whatever we want. What? Is that your example?
See the connection now.
Yeah.
What?
It's like good every day.
There's like a lot of clean dishes and that's the only like
It's a good idea.
Sounds like fun. What did you do? With So, wait, when did you wake up? 3:45? No.
Make sure your paper has a heading. If you wrote it in the packet, just tear out a page and put the heading on it. Come on, Cass.
I mean, I think that's a good process.
Give myself a little credibility. Needs improvement. Something about dirty dishes.
Oh, yeah. Actually, you can draw that on that. I think that,
Don't want to get whipped out.
Yeah.
So, very long time. That's the
Heading on the
spread from the original, like, oh, really? Yeah. You just kind of looked off
Put a heading on it, put a heading on it, put a heading, heading. Show me where your heading is for your quotes. Cut out. Name and TOTC. Like that.
I don't want to bring that up because it's all about population.
Yeah, like that.
That's true.
The heading, all papers, now it's going on first, 2, 3, TOTC. That. Oh, Georgia, in the heading! Georgia!
There we go. Oh, and by the way, I'm in the
Come on, baby! Get with the program, Benny! Oh my God!
Yeah, there's no way to fix the problem without changing human nature.
Your tears are like fertilizer for me.
The basketball.
Headings?
It's easy to say no, but I want to.
Bro, you can't read it from now on. That's because somebody in the district. All right, it's okay, you're good. Just write TOTC where the stamp goes. Improves your chances tremendously. Yes. Nope.
Two by the door on the floor were open or whatever.
But ratless?
Yes. And then the chicken coop lock is open. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that.
Will you please fridge this?
Right to my face.
everyone.
Last minute!
That's an off-lighting plastic.
Yeah.
Last minute!
That stuff
Oh,
is only bad if literally everyone, the majority of people
Tacos on the brow.
for their benefit.
I've got a good feeling about this. Please return your desks to normalcy so we can all face the whiteboards. Watch your fingers.
Swole. The grind never stops. That fella is just so long.
Quit crowding me, dog. I need room to breathe, man. Who's totally got this? Go.
The tragedy of the commons is basically when people use their self-interest, it creates bad habits and everyone does it, so then there's less resources and then more pollution and more destruction.
Yeah. Go.
Everyone acts out of their own self-interest to maximize their gain because the negative effects of their actions only directly affect each person a small amount because all of society shares the consequences.
Not bad. In all things or in a specific setup? How many of you understood what she said? Is that the case in all things, or is there a specific scenario where that's a problem? In what?
Shared things?
In shared things. Anybody else think they could say this better? Yeah?
I have a question about shared things.
Uh-huh.
Like,
what is this shared thing?
Yeah, but what's like the concept
It
of
might come
shared?
through with them have shared.
Because like you can say like your car is not shared with everyone, but yet the pollution is shared with everyone.
Whoa.
That would be.
Exactly. So, what types of shared things?
Water.
Not examples, what types of shared things? What category of things that are shared is the Tragedy Commons written about? This is not trivial. A lot of you are like, well, whatever, bro. But this is actually kind of the starting point of your final definition. Warning! It's the only thing I know is going to be on your AP test on May 8th or whatever. This is the only thing, I guarantee you. It's your one free point. P.S. It is the epicenter of politics. You can't choose economies without this. Come on. What types of resources?
Oh, economic.
There's things that we share, then there's things that we share.
Environmental.
No, it's okay, it's okay. Georgia, relevant to this conversation generally, yeah, but there's a subset of things we share. There's two ways to share things. You can share things this way or that way. Tragedy of the Commons only applies to one scenario. What type of sharing? All right, fine. What is the commons? Oh, snap! Dramatic reset time. The two houses of Congress in Britain are called the House of blank and the House of blank. Yeah, one of them is the House of Commons and the other one is? The non-commons. What do we call the non-commons? What do we call them? They're non-commons, they're... No. What?
Superior people.
Y'all don't know anything. Come on, somebody knows. If I say it, you're gonna be like, oh, I heard of that. The two houses of Congress in England are called the House of Commons, and you be quiet over there. If you're gonna interrupt, make sure you're right, I say. And the House of Lords.
I got it.
Where were you, Claire?
I said House of Lords.
Yeah, Claire got it right, and then she told me, and then I knew it, so then I was right.
She was like whispering to the printer, and somehow Zach got it wrong. All right, children. What is the difference between lords and commons? What's a lord? What do they have that the commons don't?
A lot of
what?
things.
Land. The etymology is helpful. I want to figure out where this word comes from. It matters. You've heard of like commonwealth and common law and doing things for the common good. Lords were people who were deeded rights to land. And everybody else, they were common folk. They were common folk because they lived in the commons, which was a chunk of land for everybody else. Family A, Family B, Family C, and Family D all shared the commons. If you were going to take notes on anything today, it'd probably be the example that the author uses, because it's a good place to get started. There is something about this commons that I can tell you, and you'll be like, okay, yeah, I know those words. And as soon as we start talking about, your brain won't handle it right. Because there's a special scenario in this land that just cannot jive with any of your understanding of the universe. It's like talking about Superman's metabolism. It's just nonsense. Because the commons were land, you know what land is, with one special characteristic that makes all the difference in today's conversation. It was land shared freely, without rules. Common land. Hey, Keela, why'd you light all the land on fire? Because I felt like it, bro. I just peed on your land. What are you going to do about it? It's also my land. That concept don't make no sense. Like wiping before you poop. Because in the universe where we live, there is no common land. But this is the one part of our setup that makes this whole conversation fascinating, and we will come back to it later. It was land shared freely, liberally, no rules. You want to cut down the grass? You just go right on ahead, girl. And that's the part where later on you will chafe against this conversation. Because you're going to be like, but just how could you? No land without rules. But that's the whole point. You know, things were kind of lawless down there. Commoners decide things differently. There's this thing called common law, which is not the official law. It's just the law of the streets, so to speak. there's like a common law marriage where like, yo, I've been a couple for 7 years. Let's call you married. Because, you know, people kind of had their own thing going down there. Because there was no rules, man. It was just shared that land, do what you gotta do down there. So it sucked to be a commoner. Next, now that we know what the commons is, I want to figure out what the tragedy is. How many of you have read King Lear? Beth? Othello? Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet. Think about the main character or main characters in Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet. There is something about their decision making which made those stories a tragedy. It's not that they are sad. And contrary to popular belief, it's not that they all die in the end. Newsflash, everything dies in the end. What characterizes the decisions of those folks? The what?
Their own self-interest.
Yes, in pursuing their own self-interest, what happens? They're like trying and they're trying and they're trying, and then it's not the dying. Everything dies. That's Romeo and Juliet. The boy and the girl weren't allowed to be a couple, man. Society's rules, man. Arbitrary divisions among us, bro. And so you know that love conquers these divisions, and so despite all the odds, they struggle to become a couple, and in the end, how does that work out for them? Spoiler alert, they don't end up a couple happily ever after. This is what makes a tragedy. You try, and then stuff happens anyway. The heavy hand of fate. In other words, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. How many of you recognize that characteristic of tragic stories? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Can anybody tell me how you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't in the comments? Because we might be done here if somebody could do that. Yeah?
Well, if you don't use your share of the commons, everyone else is just going to use what your share. So you're damned if you do use it because you're taking stuff out, but you're damned if you don't. Everyone will use yours. Yep.
And I'm out. That's it. That's all we gotta do. We're done for today, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye. I was just kidding. Okay. That was hyperbole, man. Remember how I told you there's always some kid that's like, I got this. And I warned you, right? Okay, too bad. Everybody else, watch. On this shared land, Farmer A decides to put a sheep. It's the scenario given to you by Garrett Hardin. I want to use his own example. And then we'll just do this for like a million other examples, and then it gets more obvious. But stick with me. Goes to Costco, buys a sheep, spray paints an A on it. His effing sheep. Who's going to get the benefit of his sheep? Him. Are we all clear with that? That's why he spray painted the A on it. Because it's his sheep. So in the world of sheep ownership, You could ask more experienced shepherds. I believe you can milk the sheep. I believe you could eat the sheep. I believe you can shear them and make wool blankets and dope Pendleton flannels. I believe you can count them as they jump over fences. Maybe they can keep you warm at night. All those benefits are whose? But I thought we were sharing this common resource, which is the meadow. What about the cost? There's some things that suck about sheep. Like they put tapeworms into children because kids don't wash their hands enough. Or they make a lot of loud noises at night. Or they eat flowers that are beautiful and they degrade your flower watching. Or they scratch up the mud along the stream banks and erode the sediment to dirty your trout fishing. Anybody here an expert on sheeps? Got any other problem I'm not thinking about?
You have to feed them.
Yes, yes. Yeah, they need to be fed, so they were going to eat up some of the grass. They probably spread fleas, and fleas spread plague, maybe. Where does the cost of this sheep go? Yes. Are you raising your hand or are you just twirling your pencil?
No, I just...
Well, do you want to take a stab at this? Who pays those costs? Who suffers the tapeworm and the loss of grass and the loss of flowers and the eroded streams?
Everyone.
Do we agree that the cost is shared?
Yeah.
This is the precise setup which is problematic. Whatever is a unit of cost, that happens to the shared resource in this example, the commons. Whatever it is that sheep do that we don't like, they spread fleas and they make noises and they eat the grass and they erode the streams, they do that to the thing that everybody else is sharing. So this man over here gets all the benefit, but everybody else is subjected to the cost of sheepness. Farmer B might have a kid with tapeworms. Farmer C might have lost their favorite flower viewing area. Farmer D might have lost his favorite trout hole. But all these other farmers, they're not idiots. They all have a Costco membership. They all say, dude, look over at Farmer A. He's just like bathing in sheep milk, rolling around in like a wool blanket. He's all like fat and Jose style because he's just like pigging out on delicious sheep ribs. What part of the sheep do you eat? I'll eat anything, but what part is it? You eat their babies, the lambs? Lambs are baby sheep, sons of the lambs, it's sheep. Yikes. Alright, whatever. They look over at Farmer A and like, dang, that guy's just got it so good. So what's the like obvious choice for everybody here? Duh. And as each of these bros drives over to Costco to pick up more sheeps, what's happening to that thing that they share? Yeah, it's degrading. Farmer C gets in it. He finally got something out of this. He's like, wait a minute. I'm tired of all these fleas and tapeworms and no more flowers. Now I'm going to get me a cut. So Farmer C spray painted his. Look at Farmer D over here. Farmer D is very intelligent. Farmer D has wisdom and experience and foresight. Farmer D looks around and says, dude, this is a bad system. All these sheep are going to ruin our meadow. My kid's practically dying of tapeworms. None of us have any body hair so that we can avoid these fleas. I'm sick and tired of not having any more grass and all my streams look like crap. I see where this is going. What is the right choice? What is the wise maneuver?
Don't get the sheep. Leave.
For Farmer D?
Kill the sheep. Kill the sheep.
Fence.
All y'all are trying to change the rules.
Get a sheep.
Let's not change the rules.
Get two sheep.
Speaking of fleas, what's the right move for Farmer D then? Come on. He'd be like, nope, 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 I'm not going to add to the degradation of our meadow. And then what happens?
He dies.
He's just suffering the same fleas and tapeworms and degradation of the meadow because there's no rules to that sharing, so everybody else can still do whatever the F they want. And they're like, hey, maybe there's a little bit of grass left over there by Farmer D. Hopefully my sheep will find that. Or Farmer D does the other choice. I'm going to go to the Costco, I'm going to get me a sheep. But where does this all end up? In the eventual degradation of their common resource. There was a quote that says this outcome. Anybody find that one quote group too? Therein lies the tragedy.
The one of like each man.
Louder though.
Therein is the tragedy. Each man is locked into a system that compels.
You call that louder? Come on, try harder. Stand up.
Stand up?
Yeah. She'll be alright. Louder.
Each man is locked into a system that compels him to increase his herd without limit in a world that is limited.
And then the next quote, the next sentence.
Ruin is the destination.
Listen to this. Come on, come on, come on, Jordan. Stand up. I know you got lungs. Hit it.
Ruin is the destination toward which all men rush, each pursuing his own best interest in a society that believes in the freedom of the commons. Freedom in a commons brings ruin to all.
Holy mackerel. Read that again. Get ready, everybody.
Ruin is the destination toward which all men rush.
Stop. Ruin is the destination toward which all men rush.
Each pursuing his own best interest in a society that believes in the freedom of the commons.
Stop. In a society that believes in freedom of the commons. Remember, we're talking about things that we share without rules. That's the setup.
Freedom in a commons brings ruin to all.
You can't show up in a room full of hungry people, throw out a pizza, and say good luck, y'all. You can't be like, hello, all the countries along the Pacific Ocean. Good luck with that Pacific Ocean. It's a tragedy because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Get it? If you put the sheep on there, you're going to ruckus the commons. But if you don't, everybody else still can, and you just suffer anyway, but then you don't get any of the benefit. Zero-sum game? Actually, this is an example in theoretical mathematics of a zero-sum game. Because when you add one more plus and spread out a bunch of minuses, the sums are all zero. Understand? Zero-sum game? Watch. Anybody here good at math? What is the mathematic outcome for all these folks?
0.
See? Zero-sum game. It's a type of math setup. You can't win this game. That's what tragedies are, the games you can't win, because, you know, the heavy hand of fate. Connectors. What's a resource that either really or theoretically could be shared without rules?
Oxygen.
What'd you say?
Oxygen.
Okay. How would that be degraded by individual benefit? You could hold your breath and not use it, but then you die. Or you could use it, and if everybody else is using it, then you die. Let me give you a more clear example of this scenario, because oxygen is not actually a common resource. We don't all commonly share it, because we're not the only players in that game. The plants and the algae make more oxygen. But let me give you a different scenario. You're trapped in a ship that sank. You've got a little tiny air pocket that you're sharing with 2 other people. Now, that's a commonly shared resource. No rules about how you're going to use that last little air pocket. Do you understand now how it's a commonly shared resource with no rules? 3 people surviving in a little tiny air bubble in a ship on the bottom of the ocean? So what do? If you all breathe it, it's gone. And you lose. You could not breathe it and then you lose. But by killing yourself first, everybody else is still going to lose, so why would you do that? So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It's a tragedy that comes for oxygen. What else? We can do this all day. Anybody else? Not group 3?
Fishing. Yeah.
How so?
If you're damned if you don't, because if you don't fish, you die because you have no food. You're damned if you do because you need to catch more fish to output, but the problem is with catching more fish is you're polluting the ocean.
All right. So let me simplify the scenario to be a more clear, clean-cut example of tragedy of the commons, okay, just for the sake of conversation. Imagine this scenario. This is imaginary because we're going to keep it simple because we're baby stepping here. Watch. All of us are our own fishing boat, so each of you is a fishing boat. And here we are, out in the ocean, bobbing around. Anybody get seasick on boats? Some of you are barfing on your boats. And here we are, bobbing around, and I see underneath my boat the last tuna. Well, we could imagine that she's somehow miraculously holding fertilized eggs in her. Biologically, that's not how it works with tuna, but anyway, she's pregnant, whatever. Watch my decision. Keep in mind, I have perfect knowledge of the situation. You're all fishermen and I'm a fisherman. You all have baits, rods, reels, and line. I've got bait, rod, reel, and line. We are all legally free to take the last tuna, and there's no doubt it's the last tuna. It has like a stapled tag, like a huge flag behind its tail. It says, I am the last tuna. It's settled. I'm not an idiot, and neither are you. We all know how this works. That's the last one. Let's not change any rules. Keep it simple, theoretical. We're all fishermen. We're all ready. There's the last fish. What's the smart move for me?
Get it.
Catch that fish.
Are you sure? Now there's no more tuna.
Can't make more tuna anyway. It wouldn't
Someone
matter.
else will get it, and you're damned because you didn't get it. And then everyone else is damned because there's nothing left.
Okay. But if the charge of the commons is actually supposed to be a fair representation of people, the mutual coercion would go in there to save the fish. Like, you wouldn't.
We could change the rules, yeah.
But that's not changing the rules.
Of course it is.
That's what humanity does.
Remember that my setup was, we're all free to take it. And you're saying, but we could agree not to.
Well, I'm saying I could take it, they, you know, save it till it gives babies, and then...
Changing the rules again. Yeah?
I think within the argument against especially like theoretical game logic in application to.
That's fine. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So we would all agree at this point to make rules, right? We'd all be like, yeah, let's save this one, or let's all split it up or something, right? Maybe we could all be like, yo, if we just leave this one and let it make babies, then we all win. And there's a benefit to all of us to making rules. But this is not a commons anymore. We all need to exit the tragedy of the commons, and there's two possible solutions, and we got to get to those. Yeah?
Wouldn't the long-term marginal gain from killing it be less would be less to kill it immediately than to not kill it in the long run? So even if we had, say, that theoretical game model, then all actors would do that.
There's a benefit for cheating separate from this.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that, say in this game model you have one option to just kill it, you get 1, the other 0, etc. But I would argue that there's almost a match equilibrium at everyone not choosing not to kill it, right?
Yeah.
In the long run.
Yeah. I mean, if you extend the time frame, then you have to adjust up and down the cost and benefit over time.
Yeah.
And so maybe the cost of operating your boat is a rush to take it. Maybe the growth of its yield as it eats and ages is beneficial to everyone to make the benefit greater over time. To wait. So we can make this more interesting. But I'm starting a baby. I'm baby stepping. Yeah.
Is there any situation where people thinking long term and where like everyone would think like long term for their own personal gain and it would still end up being a tragedy? Because here everyone's like, I'm gonna like for that example right there, it's like I'm gonna get a sheep so that I have a sheep right now. No one's thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get a sheep so that in the future I have something else.
You could assume that everybody gets a sheep with the intention of slaughtering it 1 year later, or with breeding a whole pack of sheep for greater benefit down the line, and the decision making would still be the same. As long as the cost is shared and the benefit is not, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. That's why commons are the tragedy. The tragedy applies in resources that we share without rules. And if you look for things you share without rules, they're all tragic. We all share an atmosphere with very few rules. So you're allowed to ride your bike, but you're also allowed to drive. If you drive, you know you're ruining the atmosphere for everybody. But think about how much you add to the atmosphere. The atmosphere seems so giant. And you're just 1/7 billionth of humanity, right? So when you choose to drive, you know you're degrading a shared resource, but it's just a little tiny sliver of extra cost. If I choose to drive today, sure, I'm adding pollution to our shared atmosphere, but it's not a lot. That cost is divided among all of humanity, but the benefit of driving my V6 Tacoma with air conditioning and NPR, that's just for me. Sure, I could be a hero and ride my bike, lose an hour of sleep, show up even sweatier and grosser, and get like a chapped butt from like pedaling up the hill and stuff. Meanwhile, I'd be sucking on all those exhaust fumes for like an hour of all the happy people who drive past me. I could be the hero, but I'm suffering all the cost of not driving. I'm giving up all the benefit of driving, and really, the atmosphere is still this giant. When we share things freely, it always makes sense to take the individual benefit at the expense of the shared cost. The last tuna, it's going to happen anyway, might as well. So watch this. We keep it simple, and then all these things actually start to come together in the real world without all this. Like the model is almost done. And we're almost done with the theoretical. It's almost over. Bear with me. Two possible solutions to this situation. How could we change these rules? How could Farmer D decide not to get a sheep and not suffer the cost of all the other people's sheep.
Put like a fence around a little bit of land.
Yeah, that's right. You can all see how this changes the math, right? Now if one fool gets too many sheep, well, +4 minus 4, bro, that's your problem. Good luck with your 4 sheeps. Do you understand how this solves the tragedy of the commons? You want to do something stupid with your land? Go ahead. As long as my land is on the other side of the fence, your problem stayed over there, mine stayed over here. Maybe we find out that 2 sheep is the right choice for me, and that's where I stop. Maybe you find out that 4 is too many for you. Your problem, you suck. Yeah?
What about, like, collective property and other different forms of property?
Ah, wait. Yes?
Doesn't that basically get rid of the commons?
Yes. It is no longer a commons. It is now private land, just like our country has. Huh?
Wouldn't that basically be changing it instead of solving it?
Well, we had to leave the commons. We said commons are resources that you share without rules, and that don't work none. So here's one way to share it. We divide it up. Yeah?
That still doesn't solve the tragedy of commons that can't be shared or divided up.
You're absolutely right. But I'm not even going to recognize their existence at this point.
All right.
So one option, you can privatize that resource. By privatizing, cost and benefit are both individual. Solve. What is the other way to solve this problem? How can I not suffer the costs without getting some benefit? Because Molly, this is for you. Can you find Leah Idelson and get this to her, please?
Yeah.
That's fine. What's the other way to solve this? Come on, we gotta go. Yeah.
You can purchase the goods made by this.
Oh, that's shifting our consideration of whose cost and which benefits. Yeah. Yeah, probably the most direct way to do that would be...
Oh, I was going to say share the benefits.
Right. Share the cost and the benefit. Here's the other way. You can communalize that resource. Make it a community good. Now, cost and benefit are both shared. One solution is to make them both individual, the other solution is to make them both shared. Now you all decide, hey everybody, do you think we should have a 4th sheep and all share that? Or are we all getting kind of sick and tired of the tapeworm and we got enough sheep to go around, so we should probably call it 3 for all of us to share? And, you know, theoretically, like, that could work. Yeah?
So the problem is mixing private with public.
Yes. Like, if I can suck out all the water from under your house and call it mine, I get all the benefit, you share that cost. That's probably not the right way to handle that water. Get ready, because now this starts to apply to your real world in just a minute. Akila, you said something, and I think actually, Cosmola, you were probably on the other end of the same topic. Can you communalize all resources? Can anybody imagine a resource that we can't share fairly? Yeah?
The atmosphere.
Well, I don't know. The atmosphere is actually pretty easy to share because it all mixes and you can't really tell where your edge of it is.
Okay, true, but it also means that if someone's acting unfairly, like in the sheep situation, you can be like, okay, you lost your sheep.
Oh, I'm not saying that we shouldn't deregulate it. I'm saying what's something that when we share it, someone's not going to get an equal cut. Think about land. If we just decide to share all the land, someone's going to get the nice view, and someone's going to get stuck at the place with all the mosquitoes, right? Some resources can't perfectly be shared. Like what? We all take a turn in Montecito? That's why globally some resources are never shared, like land. Yeah?
I would argue that theoretically the same problem arises with privatization.
Me too. Because you can't privatize all things either, right? Like how do you privatize the ocean? Like the water's moving and the gases are exchanging and the fish are swimming through? How would you privatize the atmosphere? Like everybody's got their little hamster bubble trying not to fart on their way to school? Here's the funny thing. We've all decided, socially, through the construct of cultures and governance, that there are resources we will privatize. We do, almost everywhere on Earth, including many primitive cultures, by the way. We do, and often have, privatized land ownership. We draw a line, we fight over it, we go take his land, and whatever comes of that land is ours. Farmers use it to farm, miners use it to mine. We've built a commodity-based infrastructure that is dependent on the privatized land ownership. But there are some resources that we all agree we've got to share the cost and benefit. So we mutually agree to regulate ocean extraction or atmospheric pollution. Here's where things get neat. This is the foundation of one political point of view, and this is the foundation of another political point of view. And the entire function of government is to slide the selector switch between one extreme and the other for different topics. The conservatives take over government and they want to slide a few things over this way. The liberals take over government and they want to slide some things this way. Remember I told you that this is going to be the compelling reason why you all have like a life mission based on this single topic lesson today? This is why you all have to participate in democracy. Because you've got to advocate for which way your share should be calculated of specific resources. Funny thing is, even if you share somebody else's political affiliation, there might be a resource where you want it to be a little bit more private or a little bit more shared. That's why they teach this in government classes, political science classes, math classes, ecology and environmental science. Oh, and then, if you believe economic prosperity is a shared resource, then you can regulate which type of economy you want. Like how much you should be able to hoard economic success or how much you should be forced to share economic success. Tax policy conversation. This is an economics slide too. Yeah.
I would argue that the form of which privatization and collectivism are influences how they function think that essentially it's not simply left-right, but also how the state functions on those forms of privatization and collectivization. Like the state has not had a single form throughout history, and the form at which the state takes influences the direct function, the base superstructure relationship within that.
Sure, because I like the sound of that, and people have argued that if liberties are a shared resource, then we got to decide how many we're going to keep and how many we're going to allow government to take from us. And so there's like another spectrum of like just what functions government practices and which things you consider to be yours to privatize or share.
So,
not what you were saying.
Sort of, but I don't know how to explain it very simply. That would take a long time to say.
Let me step back because I got to check something. Check something out. You have to know, first of all, that when we say a commons, we say something shared without rules. That's like fact that you have to note. Commons are things shared without rules. That's the common. Second of all, you have to know that doesn't work out. The tragedy is individual benefit always degrades when you share the cost. You benefit individually from that thing you were sharing without rules, but you share the cost. That's the spiral. That's the ruin toward which all men rush. In a system that believes in the freedom of the commons, that thing is going to be ruined. Yeah?
What about the collaborative commons in the end?
Oh, so that was like the Plan C option. Like, which things do we choose to share how? And I just see that as another system of governance.
Well, no, more referring to the lack of the tragedy of the commons historically in terms of collectivized resources on the earth.
Well, so that's the lady who got the Nobel Prize. She found an example of collaborative commons. I personally see that as another way of describing things where we share the cost benefit. By its nature, the fact that it's collaborative means it's governed, or at least negotiated, right?
I would argue that if you look at like platforms like Linux, the open source nature of it is not really governed in so much as it's voluntarily taken there. The people voluntarily take part in it.
Yeah, but I don't know if I could do this for Linux because programming languages are not resources that we can exploit for individual benefit.
But if you look at Linux is not a programming language, but rather a C to base an operating system on. And you can't privatize that. That's what Windows does, as well as what Mac OS X does.
Still don't see how that applies as a commons.
Well, it's the source code is a shared resource.
But how does an individual benefit degrade the whole?
No, exactly. It's a commons where it doesn't have the tragedy aspect of it.
How is it a commons?
In that it's shared freely.
But I don't know if I can't make that fit. Maybe collaborative commons are just not commons. For the sake of this conversation, I want to keep it that way for now. I want all of you to know that commons are resources that we share freely. And the tragedy is where individual benefit and cost is shared, that will degrade that. That's what the tragedy of commons is. You got to know that for the AP test. It's on every exam. If you have questions, you should ask them. In addition to what you have to know for the College Board, I want you to know something for me. What I want you to know for me is there are two possible solutions. Share cost and benefit or individualized cost and benefit. And these are the basic foundational answers that we in politics are arguing about all the time, trying to decide how to govern the resources we share. Other than Cosmali, who keeps blowing my mind, what other things are there to talk about here? Well, you mean the collection of water?
Yeah.
Let's see here. How does an individual benefit, or how is that cost shared? Oh, I got it. Okay. If I could capture rainwater before it enters groundwater, I could benefit individually. But the community would have less drinking water in the end because that would take out of the share that we all have as our common resource, right? Yeah. So it makes sense for me to trap the rainwater even though we're all going to have a little less groundwater when we turn on the tap. That's a tragedy of the commons, but if everybody did that, we'd have no groundwater to use when we turn on the tap. That works. Yeah?
I have a question. You said one
Yeah.
of the solutions is shared cost and benefit. What do you mean by that?
So like if all those sheep have no name on them, they are part of the commons. The cost and benefit of the sheep are now shared. Students often call this communism, and I try not to use that word. We have communalized the sheep. Like there are communal sheep. Like they're our sheep. So we would decide what's best for all of us. It's now a democratic system where we share these things. Can I answer your question? You see how we share the cost and the benefit?
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
How is it democratic?
Okay. Yeah, that's okay too. Yeah.
So you say on the right they want to privatize both the cost and the benefit, but usually it's just the benefit, right?
Yeah, so now that's a political commentary, but that's probably a fair interpretation, yeah.
But could there, for the
But the
left...
theory of privatization is you would get all the costs too.
Yeah.
The real winning thing is to treat a common resource as a private good if you can, right? Like capitalism is trying to capitalize, so you're trying to get as much of the benefit and offset as much of the cost. What else? The basics of the thing where you benefit entirely, but the cost is shared, so it makes sense to do that. How many of you got that part of the Trade Commons thing? You can say that on an exam? Who could ask me about that? What's a question that I didn't say right? Maybe some of you saw something, but you heard a student ask something that I should have said differently. Can anybody help me say this better? Yeah.
So, back to where the cost is shared among everybody and the benefit is individual. So you're gradually reaching new lower stages of equilibrium for the commons.
Oh, so yeah, you're further and further degrading the commons. Yeah. Like as each of us decides to drive instead of riding a bike, we're making the atmosphere worse to the point where we know that's going to end really badly for all of us. But if you got 6.9 billion humans already wrecking it for you, you know you're going to suffer those same costs anyway. You might as well get the benefit. That's the tragedy. That's how things get ruined. You know, like imagine if there's a whole like floor in a dorm sharing the kitchen. Nobody cleans. It's like, yeah, I could clean, but everybody else has left this place all messy, so I want to leave it all messy, so that's going to degrade that kitchen that you all share. You know, like if you got like 4 roommates, nobody ever does the dishes. It's a beautiful thing. You put 4 people in a house, nobody ever does the dishes. I don't know how it works. Everybody's like, oh man, I hate it when all of you never do the dishes. But like, bro, you never do the dishes either. Gotta change the rules. Can't have things that you share without rules. Come on, ask me things. We probably have a few minutes, don't we? We got like almost 10 minutes. Nobody wants to talk to me? Yeah.
So you gave the example of land when it talks about like communal living, things that we can't all like share.
Yeah.
Can you give any other examples?
Probably. I'm going to assume that it gets difficult to share the productivity of that land, like all of the food that comes out of that land, because it's very difficult to maintain perfect shares of things. A lot of people argue that we shouldn't all get exactly equal shares of the economy because we're not all exactly working as hard or exactly as worthy. You know what I mean? Some people would say, well, you can't perfectly communalize the economy because there's no way to equalize everyone's work or effort. There's probably others. Yeah.
Would energy fall into this strategy of the commons?
Well, the resources that we use to make our energy, maybe. What else? Is this totally donezo? Are we over it? Yeah. Claire, would you please stop the stream?